Hello, my friend. I'm genuinely glad you're here to watch this video, and I'd be even more grateful if you hit that subscribe button. It would mean more to me than you know. Now let's get into what happened. For 6 years, I raised a child I believed was mine, completely unaware that biologically, he wasn't. 6 years of birthdays, bedtime stories, and loving him without hesitation. My name is Justin, and this is the story of how I discovered my wife, Sophia, had been involved in an affair with my closest friend, Brandon, and everything that followed. The beginning of it all goes back several years to my time at Meridian Technologies, a mid-sized software company in downtown Phoenix. I was part of the IT infrastructure team. The salary was decent, and I'd already been there for 3 years when Sophia joined the marketing division. Sophia was the kind of beautiful that seemed to defy definition. We first met during a company-wide meeting about a product launch. IT and marketing had to work together to iron out the technical details for the new website. From the moment we spoke, there was an instant connection, but we both understood Meridian's firm stance against workplace relationships. The company had a clear policy forbidding romantic involvement within reporting lines, and while our roles didn't directly overlap, the workplace culture discouraged any office dating altogether. People had lost their jobs for less, so we kept things discreet. We'd slip away to small cafes during lunch breaks, send each other messages constantly, and find reasons to collaborate on projects that didn't really require input from both of us. Brandon, my best friend from our college days and an accountant at the same company, had his suspicions, though I didn't confirm anything to him right away. Brandon was the kind of friend you could call in the middle of the night if your car broke down, and he'd show up with jumper cables and a cup of coffee. Our secrecy lasted for months. After work, I'd head over to Sophia's apartment, and on weekends we'd spend time together whenever we could invent a believable excuse for our coworkers. It was a hidden relationship, growing deeper by the day, but the constant need for secrecy began to weigh on us. By the 5th month, we both knew one of us would eventually have to leave Meridian. Sophia earned less than I did and had been telling me for months that she was burned out. The demands of her job, 12-hour days during campaign launches, endless last-minute revisions from high-maintenance clients, and going home completely exhausted, were wearing her down. She'd been dreaming of starting her own online business, researching dropshipping and affiliate marketing, and had even launched a small Instagram page posting lifestyle and wellness content. Her following was small but growing steadily. Our plan was that after we married, she'd resign, focus on building her brand, and later we'd start a family with her as a stay-at-home mom. Financially, it was workable. My income could cover our needs, and if her business succeeded, we'd be in a stronger position than we were with both of us stuck in corporate grind. Beyond the financial reasoning, she truly despised the internal politics and the relentless pressure of hitting quarterly targets. Eventually, we decided to take the leap. 8 months into dating, I proposed, and on the same day we shared our engagement with our families, Sophia submitted her 2-week notice. The timing was perfect. Meridian's peak season had just wrapped up. Her resignation allowed her replacement to step in at the start of a fresh quarter. Brandon was thrilled when I asked him to be my best man. At the time, he was going through a rough patch with his wife, fights over finances and lack of communication, so he threw himself into helping plan my bachelor party and seemed genuinely happy for me. We were married in October 2017, about 6 months after getting engaged. We chose a small wedding, 50 guests, mainly family and close friends. Sophia looked absolutely stunning in her dress, and during the vows, I remember thinking I was the luckiest man alive. At the reception, Brandon gave a touching speech about never seeing me so happy, about how Sophia was perfect for me, and about loyalty and friendship, words that, looking back now, are drenched in irony. After the wedding, Sophia's online business started to pick up momentum. She posted regularly, partnered with small brands for sponsored posts, and by our first anniversary, she was making around $1,200 a month. It wasn't a life-changing income yet, but it was progress, and she seemed satisfied with her work. Her days began whenever she chose, she worked from the kitchen table in her pajamas, and she appeared genuinely content with the lifestyle. About 8 months into our marriage, we decided to start trying for a baby. Sophia had always dreamed of becoming a mother, and I felt ready to take that step. 3 months later, she was pregnant. We were overjoyed. Her pregnancy went smoothly, and in September 2018, almost exactly 3 years after we met, our son, Tyler, was born. At birth, I never questioned anything. Newborns rarely look much like their parents right away. They're tiny, wrinkled, and pink. But as months passed and Tyler's features became clearer, I started noticing things that didn't quite line up. His eyes were brown, even though both Sophia and I had blue eyes. From high school biology, I knew 2 blue-eyed parents typically have blue-eyed children. Still, I avoided bringing it up. I didn't want to plant seeds of distrust. Since both of us had relatives with brown eyes, I told myself it must be a recessive trait. I pushed the thought aside, but over time, more differences appeared. His hair was a different texture, his facial features didn't resemble mine, and eventually people stopped politely commenting that he looked like his dad. Once my mother remarked that Tyler must take after Sophia's side of the family. When you love someone and trust them, you learn to dismiss those uneasy thoughts. You convince yourself that genetics can be unpredictable, that resemblance can skip generations, and that your fears are misplaced. And the truth was, I loved Tyler without question. No matter the doubts about his appearance, he was my son in every way that mattered. Biology felt insignificant compared to the bond we shared. Throughout Tyler's early childhood, Brandon was a regular visitor. He'd come over for cookouts, bring birthday gifts, and play with Tyler in the backyard. Tyler seemed especially drawn to him, which I thought was sweet. Brandon was great with kids, and since he and his wife, Lisa, were having trouble conceiving, I assumed he cherished his role as the fun uncle. This routine became our normal for years. Sophia's business eventually grew to where she was consistently earning close to $3,000 a month. By that time, Tyler had entered first grade, and our household had settled into a steady, comfortable rhythm. We weren't rich, but we were financially secure. Our mortgage was under control, our debt minimal, and we'd even begun talking about the possibility of having another child. That sense of stability shattered on March 15, 2024. A date I will never forget. I was at work going through my daily tasks when my phone rang. The screen showed a call from Tyler's school. On the other end, the nurse told me Tyler had fallen during recess, striking his head against playground equipment. He was conscious and speaking, but they were worried about a potential concussion and recommended we take him to the emergency room immediately. I left everything on my desk and drove straight to the hospital. Sophia arrived not long after, and together we spent 4 anxious hours in the ER as doctors examined him. Thankfully, he was ultimately okay, but he required a minor procedure to clean and close a deep gash on his forehead. The medical team also ordered blood tests to rule out any internal complications. During the intake process, a nurse asked about our family's medical background and our blood types. That's when it dawned on me, I had no idea what Tyler's blood type was. To help speed up the matching process for his treatment, the staff took blood samples from both Sophia and me. What happened next began the unraveling of everything I thought I knew. The results came back showing Tyler's blood type as A positive. Mine is O negative, a universal donor, and Sophia's is B positive. The nurse casually mentioned that Tyler's A-type must have come from one of his grandparents, but something about that explanation didn't sit right. I'm no doctor, but I remembered enough from high school biology to know that a parent with O blood and another with B blood couldn't produce a child with type A blood. As Tyler was getting his stitches, I pulled out my phone and began looking up information on blood type inheritance. What I read made my stomach twist. A parent with type O can only pass on the O gene. A parent with type B can only contribute B or O. That means their children could only be type B or type O. Type A wasn't possible. Standing in that hospital hallway, I kept rereading the information, hoping I'd missed some key detail. But the science was straightforward. Tyler could not be my biological son. My mind scrambled for other explanations. Maybe the hospital had mixed up the results. Maybe I had somehow been mistaken about my own blood type, even though I'd donated blood dozens of times and knew for certain I was O negative. Maybe Sophia was wrong about hers. I didn't say anything in the hospital. The last thing I wanted was to cause a scene. Tyler's recovery came first, and he needed rest. Over the following week, I began researching paternity testing options. I found a company called DNA Diagnostic Center that offered discrete tests using only a cheek swab, with results promised in 7 business days. The cost was $299, small in the grand scheme of things, yet potentially the price of destroying my entire family. That Saturday morning, while Sophia was at yoga, I took the samples. Tyler was watching cartoons, and I told him it was a fun little science experiment. He laughed and went along with it as I swabbed the inside of his cheek. That afternoon, I mailed the samples and tried to carry on as if nothing had changed, though the waiting felt endless. The email came on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. The subject line was plain, paternity test results available. The report stated without ambiguity that the probability of paternity was 0. I read the sentence 3 times before its full meaning sank in. I then called in sick, got in my car, and drove aimlessly, trying to process the truth. 6 years of raising a child I now knew wasn't mine. 6 years of trusting my wife. 6 years of being deceived. And now the question I couldn't shake, if not me, then whose child was Tyler? That night, after Tyler had gone to bed, I asked Sophia to join me in the living room. I told her what had happened at the hospital and that I had gone ahead with a DNA test. Her immediate reaction was defensive. She claimed the test had to be wrong, insisting Tyler was my son. I handed her my phone so she could read the report herself. I watched her expression shift from confusion to fear, and finally to resignation. Then came the tears, likely because she knew there was no longer any way to hide the truth. She confessed that she had slept with Brandon once after our wedding. According to her, he had stopped by to drop off some items for me. I wasn't home, and she invited him to stay for a drink. One thing led to another, and they ended up in bed together. She swore it had only happened once, that it was a terrible mistake, and that it had never been repeated. But to me, the betrayal was unfixable. Not only had she been unfaithful, she had allowed me to believe I was Tyler's father for 6 years. All that time, she had watched me bond with him, work to provide for our family, and even decide against having another child, while she kept to herself the suspicion, if not the certainty, that Tyler wasn't mine. I asked whether Brandon knew. She said they had never talked about it, that she had convinced herself Tyler was mine because we had been intimate frequently during that time, but admitted she had quietly suspected the truth for years and had been too afraid to face it. I left the house that night and checked into a hotel to think. My first step was to call Brandon and tell him we needed to talk immediately. We met at a coffee shop near his office the next morning. When I told him about the DNA results and Sophia's confession, the blood drained from his face. He didn't try to deny it. He admitted he had suspected for years that Tyler might be his, but said he'd kept silent to avoid destroying my marriage or disrupting Tyler's life. He claimed the guilt had eaten away at him, but he hadn't known how to bring it up. I asked how he could stand at Tyler's birthday parties, join us for holidays, and look me in the eye pretending to be my friend for 6 years. How he could live with himself after what he'd done. He muttered excuses, calling it a mistake, saying he regretted it, insisting he had never wanted things to happen this way. That's when I lost control. I punched him square in the face, breaking his nose, and left him bleeding at the table. It wasn't my proudest moment, but 6 years of betrayal had finally boiled over. 2 weeks later, I filed for divorce. I also began researching whether I could pursue legal action for paternity fraud, misleading a man into believing he is the biological father of a child when he is not. My lawyer made it clear that while deceiving a partner into raising another man's child is undeniably wrong in a moral sense, Arizona law does not treat it as a criminal matter. Even on the civil side, claims of this nature almost never succeed. We decided to try regardless. I filed a lawsuit against Sophia, demanding damages for both the emotional devastation and the financial costs I had shouldered in raising Tyler under a false belief about his parentage. For 11 long, draining months, the case wound its way through the courts, only to be dismissed in the end. The judge ruled that because I had taken on the role of Tyler's father by choice, without any legal compulsion, I could not recover compensation for the support I had voluntarily provided. The divorce proceedings didn't favor me either, despite the undeniable fact that Sophia had been unfaithful and had lied about Tyler being my biological son. The judge did grant my request to keep the house, largely because Sophia had no interest in it, and expressed sympathy for my situation, but that was the extent of my legal win. Outside of the house and our retirement funds, there was little else to divide. Sophia left with a few $1,000s in cash and her 2019 Honda CR-V. What cut deepest, though, was Tyler. Legally, my name on his birth certificate and my 6 years as his father meant I still had both the rights and the obligations that came with parenthood. I walked away from them. I know that will sound cold to some, but every time I looked into his face, I saw Brandon staring back at me. I couldn't continue in a role that was now a constant reminder of the worst betrayal I had ever known. Sophia and Tyler moved into a rental on the other side of town. Her online business brought in enough income to support them, and I assumed Brandon was helping financially too, though I made a point not to dwell on that. But my feelings toward Brandon weren't finished. His marriage to Lisa had been fragile for years, held together in part by their shared finances and in part by her unwillingness to face the upheaval of divorce. Brandon earned a solid living, around $95,000 a year as an accountant, and together they enjoyed a comfortable home and lifestyle Lisa valued. Over the years, I'd gotten to know Lisa well through group outings and double dates. She was a genuinely kind woman who didn't deserve the man she had married. Eventually, I made a choice I still wrestle with, one I felt was necessary at the time. I picked up the phone and told her everything. I explained not only that Brandon had been having an affair with Sophia, but that Tyler was his biological child. I laid out the timeline in full and even offered to cover the cost of her attorney if she chose to divorce him. Lisa was devastated, though not entirely surprised. She admitted she had long suspected infidelity but had never had hard proof. Learning about the child ended any remaining doubt. I paid $16,000 toward her legal fees. Her lawyer was meticulous and aggressive. He uncovered that Brandon had been hiding extra income from consulting work and funneling money into a retirement account Lisa didn't know existed. By the time the divorce was final, Lisa walked away with their home and half of his assets. Did that bring me peace? Not really. Brandon lost his marriage and his financial stability. Lisa lost the life she'd built, even if she kept the house and money. Sophia lost her marriage and faced raising Tyler alone. And Tyler, he lost the only father he had ever known. As for me, I lost my wife, my son, my best friend, and whatever faith I once had in the people closest to me. The house I fought to keep became an empty, echoing shell. Months have passed since it all came crashing down. I've been in therapy since last June, trying to process the betrayal and the guilt of leaving Tyler behind. My therapist tells me forgiveness is for my own sake, not theirs. But I'm not there yet. A few months ago, Brandon reached out, asking to meet and apologize. I wasn't ready then, and I'm not sure I ever will be. Some wounds cut so deeply, they may never fully close. These days, when I date, trust is no longer something I give freely. If someone cancels plans last minute or says they'll be working late, my mind jumps straight to suspicion. I know it's unfair to the women I meet, and I know I'll need to address it before I can build something healthy again. Financially, my life is simpler. Without a family to support, my income stretches further. I've paid off my credit card debt, built an emergency fund, and found a certain quiet comfort in being responsible only for myself. But that quiet comes with loneliness. When you trust without reservation, you don't search for deceit. You believe what you're told and build your life on it. The hardest truth I've learned is that some people can carry enormous lies for years, never letting it alter their daily behavior. Sophia could kiss me goodbye each morning and tell me she loved me every night, all while knowing our marriage was built on a lie. Brandon could smile, shake my hand at gatherings, and ask about Tyler's school, knowing full well he was his father. I can't say what the future holds. At 34, I'm rebuilding my life from the ground up, struggling to trust again. There's an emptiness where Tyler's laughter once filled my home. I miss the excitement of him greeting me at the door, the sense that I was building something larger than just my own life. I understand some will condemn me for walking away, and I accept that. But staying would have meant a lifetime of seeing betrayal instead of the boy I loved. Call it selfishness or weakness. It was the only decision I could live with. If you're facing a similar revelation, if you've discovered a fundamental lie at the heart of your relationship, know this. The hurt never fully disappears, but over time it becomes less heavy. Not better exactly, but more bearable. You find new ways to carry it. Whatever path you take, whether it's forgiving, leaving, seeking retribution, or simply stepping away, it's yours to choose, and you alone have to live with it. I still don't know if I'll ever have the family I once imagined, or if I'll ever trust someone the way I used to. What I do know is that I'm not the same man I was. I'm more guarded, more skeptical, but also more certain about what I will and won't accept in a relationship. The truth is rarely tidy. It's messy, sometimes cruel, and often refuses to give you the neat sense of closure you want. Sometimes, good people end up with nothing. Sometimes, revenge leaves you emptier than before. And sometimes, the ones you love most are the ones who hurt you worst. Still, you keep moving forward. You learn to live after the foundation of your life has been torn out from under you. You relearn how to trust yourself, even if trusting others takes longer. And eventually you start to believe that there may still be good things ahead, just not in the shape you once pictured. That's where I'll leave my story. I'd welcome your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for listening. If this resonated with you, I hope you'll explore my other videos. Until next time, my friend.